Hey, what's up, Steelers Nation? Happy Wednesday. I'm Tyler Feldman, proudly born and raised in the great city of Pittsburgh, currently loving life in Austin, Texas, repping the black and gold here in the great state of Texas.
And I'm Ben Bobick, representing down here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I think I did say if the Steelers scored at least 24 points, there's no way they were losing to the Jets, right?
And I'm Wayne Gandy, former Steeler offensive lineman. I'm down here in Atlanta, Georgia, but let the reunion tour continue, DK Metcalf.
And I'm Chris Carter, host of the Locked On Steelers podcast, writer at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, based here in Pittsburgh, where the season opener is set to begin this Sunday. It's the Locked On Steelers Squad Show. Let's get into it.
Wave those terrible towels. It's the Steelers Squad. Everything Pittsburgh Steelers every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Steel City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. From the steel curtain to the next generation, the Steelers Squad Show starts now.
Yes, it does. This is the Steelers Squad Show right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Tonight's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is here. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets right now. Again, I'm your host, Tyler Feldman. Joining me on this Wednesday night Seattle Seahawks preview edition of the Steelers Squad Show, former Steelers offensive lineman Wayne Gandy, future mayor of Pittsburgh, Ben Bobick, and of course, Christopher Carter of Locked On Steelers and the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Hey, Chris, of course, we've got to start with you because Mike Tomlin's press conference yesterday, you were there. Coach T confirming D tackle Derek Harmon still out this week. Not available for the Steelers home opener as well. Safety DeShon Elliott. He injured his knee in Sunday's win over the Jets. He will remain out against the Seahawks. Malik Harrison also out. So the Steelers, a bunch of early season injuries. They go ahead and sign Jabril Peppers. Let's start with what's hot. And how hot is a pepper like Jabril Peppers joining the Steelers here in week 2?
I think it's a very interesting ad, and we talked about it on the Wednesday episode of the Locked On Steelers podcast with Nick Farabaugh, because Jabril Peppers is a very diverse very versatile safety. When you look at where he's lined up in his career, whenever I thought of Jabril Peppers, I'm like, oh, that's just a hard-hitting, strong safety. But then when I looked at it, like, wait a minute, this guy lined up a lot at free safety, a lot in the slot, he even lined up an outside corner. This is a guy who can fill on several roles. And we had talked about on this show and on Locked On Steelers about how even if DeShon Elliott was healthy, Juan Thornhill was pretty much your only pure free safety on this roster. Miles Killebrew is purely a special teams guy. Chuck Clark is a fine addition who's a veteran guy, but he's more of a box guy that you want closer to the line of scrimmage. And DeShon Elliott, more of a strong safety, even when I asked Terrell Austin about that. So even if DeShon Elliott was healthy right now, and they expect him to come back sometime either for the Vikings game or the week after the bye week when they play the Browns, even when he comes back healthy, I think Jabril Peppers is a really good addition for this defense because like how they play Jalen Ramsey and Thornhill and Clark, these guys are going to move around a lot, and I think Peppers is another guy that fits into that versatile formula to keep offenses guessing.
Wayne, that versatility is critical for defense that wasn't all that impressive at times in week 1 against the Jets. What does Peppers bring to this secondary, and how does that experience lend to helping the Steelers defense? Because it's got to be weird coming in week 2 after not being with this team the entirety of the offseason.
And you guys have heard me say it before. When did the Pittsburgh Steelers become the Dallas Cowboys? I mean, just bring him in. But Jabril Peppers, a guy who started with Cleveland, that versatility of being able to play both safety spots. When you look at him, instantly you feel like you can put him on the field and he can make plays because of that veteran aspect that he brings. And then the splash to special teams. When he first started, he was big in the return game. So you imagine that he can fill in a spot if needed. His limited week, we will see how he affects this game. But I think a lot of it was that idea, as Chris was alluding to, that you can drop him in the box and he can play against the run, but you can also put him at free and he can do all those things and interchangeable things that this Steeler defense wants to do.
So, Ben, it seems like the Steelers, at least defensively, because of injury, unfortunately, they're adding more tools to the toolbox, and maybe that's a good thing, kind of like what Chris said a little bit ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and a guy like Jabril Peppers, you think about like these guys have been saying, he's that Swiss Army knife type of guy that the Steelers love to employ. A guy that could do a little bit of everything, obviously a veteran presence. I mean, Tyler, you and I, us being Penn Staters, man, I remember when this guy was at Michigan, and boy, did I hate playing against him. He was such a good Wolverine, Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, a 2-time first team All Big Ten. I loved him coming into the league, and so to see him as a Pittsburgh Steeler now, I'm like, well, I was having, I don't no longer have to have flashbacks from those days when he played for Michigan, but I think he just slides right into what the Steelers want to do, and I'm excited to see what it will entail, and hopefully what it will do is we won't be able to rush Deshaun Elliott back. There's no rush to have him back in terms of resting that knee. Let him get healthy. Don't rush it back. We got the squad hopefully to hold it down, because you guys mentioned Chuck Clark too. I mean, it might take a little bit of a load off him as well too, getting him into more of a position he's obviously more comfortable with, and because he's come off a great game against the Jets too. I thought he played very well down the stretch for the Steelers. So I think a guy that's going to fit right in and could be a major contributor on this team.
All right, Chris, let's get some updates injury-wise while we have you. Honored to have you for an hour. I don't know how you make time during the week with everything else going on, but
I don't know either, Tyler.
Hey, we'll have that. That'll be an off-season show. We'll dive into how Christopher Carter makes time for even us here on the squad show during the week. But let's dive into the injury updates. What do you know? What's the latest? So for Steelers Nation, whoever is listening right now can have the latest information.
So as you noted, Derek Harmon, Deshaun Elliott out for this upcoming game. Elliott probably out the next couple of games at least. But Derek Harmon supposedly this is going to be a ramp-up week. So we didn't see that. He didn't practice on Wednesday. So we'll see how that's moving forward. Nick Herbig did practice limited again. He looked it's interesting. I think it could be interesting to see if he gets to that full practice participation note either tomorrow or Friday. That'd be a good sign that he'd be back out there with the outside linebackers. Joey Porter Jr. did not practice. Mike Tomlin, though, did say he's optimistic that he could return this week. Remember, he said he didn't necessarily pull his hamstring, but he said his hamstring was tight, and so they wanted to protect him from injury. So we'll see if either Porter returns to at least a limited practice standpoint on Thursday, and if Herbig advances to a full practice participation point. You had a few other people. Calvin Anderson had an illness, backup offensive lineman. Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, both taking vet days, which is pretty normal for those two guys. Other than that, the Steelers mostly healthy there. Certainly want to see what's going on with Joey Porter Jr. Because if he's out, that means Ramsey and Eccles are going to have to rotate a little bit more with Darius Slay, and they won't get to. They have another that's 2 starting guys in the secondary that they'd have missing with him and Elliott.
Wayne, are you surprised by all these injuries this early on, or is this just NFL football and that's how it works, and you just play the cards you're dealt?
It is definitely just the business that these guys have chosen to be part of. When you look at it across the board, having just 2 or 3 guys out per week it's a norm. Now, this time it just happens to be that most of the guys are on the defensive side of the ball and 2 in the secondary. But this is just part of the business. There is no rhyme, reason, amount of games that you have to build up for injury. Some people keep, if you don't play in the preseason, you're going to make it to Thanksgiving. That's not true. You can get hurt at any point, and you're going to always, other than the day you drove to Latrobe, Pennsylvania, that first day is the last day you were healthy until next season. There's always something that needs to be iced or stretched out, and you just hope that guys can get back as quickly and as healthy as possible.
Ben, home opener. There's just something about Steeler football in Pittsburgh. Acrisure, Heinz Field Stadium, the site, 1 Eastern. It should be a lot of fun. And I've seen so many. There's nothing like Steelers Nation. And Ben, growing up, Steel Valley, you're black and gold through and through. What are your feelings like going into this home opener and just what Steelers football means to the city of Pittsburgh?
Oh, I mean, it's everything, man. I get you saying that gives me butterflies thinking about the home opener, and it's such a big occasion. Always feels a little bit better coming in 1-0, right? You get a chance to come in 1-0. Aaron Rodgers gets to show off in front of the home crowd for the first time here, and it's just such a special feeling. It really is, and I know a lot of people get excited for it. For example, my cousin is actually going to the Steelers game. She just had a baby about 2 months ago. Just got back to work. And now she's going to the Steelers game. So this is the first time she's starting to get out and about a little bit. She's like, all right, well, I'm going to go work first, and then I'm going to go to the Steelers game on Sunday. That gives you sort of the idea of how Pittsburgh is buzzing this week with the 1-0 football team. But, I mean, I think with that first week, you kind of almost have to just body those early injuries. I think they did what was, I think they did what was best with Joey Porter. Kind of, hey, let's not let this get into something bigger than it needs to be. Let's just kind of save you from yourself in a way, so to speak. But I think they did a good job of just kind of bodying that first wave. Okay, where are we at? We're relatively healthy in some key positions where we want to be, and let's go show off in front of the 4-1-2.
Yeah, the hamstring's always a scary one. Chris, you're a Pittsburgh guy too, through and through, but you're on the streets of Pittsburgh right now. Can you sense from the players that this is the home opener and they know what this means to Steelers Nation and the proud fans there in Pittsburgh?
Yes and no. I mean, there's Aaron Rodgers talked about today, in fact, on Wednesday in the locker room about how he thought it was kind of wild how they were in the stadium, and on that last drive when everything was on the line for the defense, he said it got so loud he thought that they were in Pittsburgh, and he was just like, I can't wait to see what that's like in Pittsburgh. So again, kudos to Steelers fans. I want to dispel a myth. People say that Steelers have the best traveling fans. Most Steelers fans don't travel. They just live everywhere. They they live in New York. They live in Tampa Bay. They live in San Francisco. They live in Miami, Arizona, Chattanooga. Exactly. You guys are everywhere. It is Steeler Nation for a reason because the fan base is just embedded in every state. Shout out to former punter Josh Miller, one of your teammates, Wayne. He published a book years ago about how it's a home game everywhere. He found 100 Steelers bars across the country in so many different parts of the world. That's how serious that is. But yes, there is an excitement, but it's also I think that there's so many veteran presences in this locker room that they're all kind of we're not trying to get overly hyped. We're not gonna get swept up in the moment. We're just focused on winning. And like Aaron Rodgers, you could throughout that whole process, right, leading up to the Jets, he had that one quote where after the game where he was like, I was happy to beat anyone associated with the Jets. He did not give any inclination, he did not feed into any narratives that he hated the Jets all week long. He kind of kept away from that. This week, guess what? Now it's DK Metcalf's chance. We talked to him today. No indication of that. He's they're being professional. They're keeping about the game. They're keeping about they're staying focused on their tasks. I think that's a good sign because they're not going to come out. And sure, there's that emotion when you run out the tunnel for the first time and you're like, whoa, this is pretty cool. But these are professionals that, Aaron Rodgers did that at Lambeau Field for decades. DK Metcalf did that in Seattle with the 12s. They know what this environment's like, what the big stage is, and they know what's at stake with each game because they want to make this season special. So I think that they recognize it's cool, but to them, it's not something that they're going to swoon over or they're going to lose their minds about. They're about being focused on football, and I think that's the way the Steelers fans should want them to be.
The standard is the standard. Of course, Wayne, we've got to ask you about your experience running out of that tunnel, donning the black and gold. Any cool stories about playing in front of Steeler Nation during your career?
I can just go back to, I started at Three Rivers. I don't mean to tell my age, but
that's all right. You can. We know. We know.
Oh, you guys already know.
Yeah, we know.
Okay. But coming and as Chris was saying, and coming from the Rams as a free agent to the Steelers, it was such a culture shock. It took you back, and it was the thing that made it so special was the fans that. When I was in St. Louis or if it started in LA, fans barely knew you. You could be staying by them with your jersey on, and they would think you were just being a fan of that player. But in Pittsburgh, you pull up to the toll booth or you pull up to the grocery store, and they would question why you looking at the ground. You should have blocked that guy, giving you advice. So, but yeah, running out the tunnel, being part of Steeler Nation is something that at first you don't get. And then as you move around the league, and as Chris was saying, I thought that the Steelers had this great travel fan base until we played in San Diego, and it was like 12,000 fans there. And we sitting on the bench, and I'm telling Alan Faneca, I don't think these people traveled here. I think these people they didn't travel from Pittsburgh because it was around New Year's, Christmas time, all the way to San Diego. And then you just learn that that's what it is. It's just Steeler fans are just they cover the country, and wherever you go, don't be shy or afraid that when you run out of anyone's tongue, there's going to be this roar as though you're at home. So I know a lot of those guys are, Aaron Rodgers has been in that environment. And also DK Metcalf has been in that Seattle. It is loud in Seattle, in the old stadium and the new one. So those guys are going to be just elated to have that feeling back and surrounding them.
A young Wayne Gandy at Giant Eagle getting taught by an 85-year-old grandmother why he didn't block well enough for that offense. Hopefully Broderick Jones isn't at Giant Eagle, because if he is seen at Market District, they may be having those same conversations with that same 85-year-old grandmother. Coming up after the break, we'll break down what the Steelers learned in that 34-32 Week 1 win over the Jets, how they plan on applying those learnings to Sunday's home opener. So don't go anywhere. This is the Steelers Squad Show. We'll be right back after this. But first, the NFL season is here, thank goodness, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because, one, it fits however I like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, even jumping in live as the action unfolds. Two, it makes every game more exciting, whether I'm watching my Steelers or just keeping tabs on my fantasy lineup. And three, it's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to my Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Guys, I was talking to my grandmother yesterday, oddly enough, 90 years old, and just the best. And she said, Tyler, when you read the ads on this show, you look sideways. And I told her that's where the script is for the ad read. And so I had to explain to her, she said, can you figure out how to not do that? And so I told her I'd work on it. But that's the kind of complimentary stuff I get from my grandmother. She's the best. Love you, Grandma.
Hey,
all right.
Some people get the offensive line tips in Giant Eagle, and
I'm getting how to do better at my job. Hey, this is the Steelers Squad Show. Love being here every Wednesday and then Sunday after every Steelers game with my guy, Ben Bobick, former Steelers offensive lineman, Wayne Gandy, and Christopher Carter, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette and host of Locked On Steelers, Monday through Friday. Check him out. He does great work, brings on great guests that are feet on the ground covering the Pittsburgh Steelers every single day of the week. Guys, lots of lessons to learn from in that Week 1 win. It was a great win. At one point, the best win in the NFL until the Bills shocked the Ravens. We don't have to necessarily get into that game. But what do we make, Chris, of the mistakes the Steelers made and how they're going about this week, fixing those mistakes for Seattle on Sunday?
Well, we talked about the run defense after the game and how bad it was. I finally had time to get to the All-22 and explore some things and talk to some of the players in the locker room. And there were some key components that kind of compounded on each other. One was, as we talked about, the D-line was just bad. But I will say, again, looking at the tape, Cam Hayward was not the culprit. It was primarily Keanu Benton, Isaiah Loudermilk, Dan Aquale, those guys filling in there. Y.A. Black, I think, held his ground enough. But when those guys were getting collapsed, it was causing major problems, and it happened enough early that all of a sudden you saw other players selling out of their roles to come try to help in those gaps, and that led to more openings. Peyton Wilson even admitting to us in the locker room saying, hey, I can't afford to do that. We have to play sound assignment football, and when one of us is trying to be a hero, we're exposing another gap. So I wrote about this in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette with a film study on the situation to kind of illustrate, hey, this is where the X's and O's were. This is where the technique was. The Steelers need to be stronger up front. If Keanu Benton's going to be kept at nose, and Mike Tomlin said he is going to be kept at nose because they see him as their nose for the future, he needs to be better at anchoring down. Or if he's not going to anchor down against double teams, he needs to split double teams and then be the presence in that separates and disrupts in the backfield. Either way, he needs to figure that out soon. This is his third year in the NFL, which means at the end of this season, there's going to be questions about what do they do with his future contract to keep him around. That was a big thing that they compounded onto other issues. And especially against the quarterback option, go back to Justin Fields' touchdown, where he just walked into the end zone. A lot of people were saying, oh, this was a bad scheme. Oh, TJ Watt misplayed it. It wasn't on any of that. It was Darius Slay. When the motion happened, you can even see Juan Thornhill kind of like say, hey, you have outside contained, and the whole defense has to crash down to keep Breece Hall from getting in because it's the 1 yard line. And Darius Slay is just kind of standing there occupying no space, and Justin Fields just walks to the pylon. And then you can even see Patrick Queen and Juan Thornhill point like, look over there. And by then it was too late. So I think there were some things that were, adjusting to for the Steelers defense, whether it was the physicality up front. And Mike Tomlin talked about, hey, like sometimes it is just getting in the stadium and getting that feel for week 1 of 60-minute football and then needing to show progress in week 2. The Steelers are banking on that because they're not moving Keanu Benton off the nose tackle position. Personally, I've always felt like Y.A. Black would make a lot of sense there with his size. It would just make him tough to move out of the hole. But this is the move the Steelers are making. So it's going to be an interesting gamble moving forward. If Keanu Benton does take a step forward, kudos for him. I think he has the potential. I loved him coming out of college. I think he's shown potential in his first 2 years, but he's got to do better against these double teams because there were several plays where everybody else did their job. But when he gets crushed in the middle of the defense and he gets pushed onto Cam Hayward, all of a sudden a huge hole opens up, and then in what should be a 2-yard run turns into an 8 to 12 to 16-yard run, and the Steelers just can't afford to have that with the way they want to play defense.
Breece Hall for the Jets, more than 100 rushing yards in that 34-32 loss for the Jets. Yes, he had his way, especially early on. Wayne, I'm so glad we have you on this show because you're the expert on that offensive line. Take us into Wayne's world. How does that offensive line get better? It's a short time frame, but how do you get better from week 1 to week 2?
It's just all about motivation and understanding. The one thing Seattle under Mike McDonald with this defensive front is similar to the Jets. So you've already had this kind of test when you talk about DeMarcus Lawrence, Leonard Williams, those guys. These are veteran guys that are going to give you that same type of energy that you just faced. So that's a good component that you've gone against that stone wall already. But I think these guys, and it's just a total team commitment. I can't drive that home enough. It's not just about the attitude is built through repetition. You got to be able to consistently run the ball, but you have to run the ball or you will never get that edge. You will never gain that physicality that you are looking for. And I think that, as I said, the talent up front, I believe, is there. But if you're not going to actually put these guys in those situations, then it won't get there where you want to. But they're going to have to establish the line of scrimmage and run the ball against this aggressive Seattle defense that last week gave up a lot of yards to the 49ers, but did get a couple of picks. And they have a very Ernest Jones, those guys, they have very capable defense. And I think this offensive line has to get to work early. And you're at home, so it should help.
Ben, do you see improvements coming the Steelers' way here against the Seahawks, or could we envision seeing a lot of the same mistakes we saw in week 1 against the Jets? What do you think?
I just think you have to be a professional, and that's just, try not to make the same mistake twice or 3 times. I mean, the good part is you came away with the win on Sunday against the Jets, but you put a lot of tape out there, and that was probably like, that that's not good, but it's a lot to learn from, especially after a week 1 win. You rather learn from bad tape or doing a bad job after a win where, but you have to be a professional. You have to go back and look yourself in the mirror and say, okay, how do I get better from this? This is what they were doing to beat me. Where could I be better? And I think because, they're watching, if you think about Seattle, they're watching the same tape that you are, and they're thinking, okay, well, that beat him this, I'm thinking, just say in particular, Broderick Jones, hey, that beat him this week. Why don't we give that a go? It's going to come again at you on Sunday. You just have to be ready for it because you have to learn from your mistakes and learn from the tape. But I just think when it comes that's what happens. I think when it comes to the offensive line is just learning from that film you have out there. And for the defensive line, I think it's just finding your role, learning that role. Like Chris had mentioned, what Keanu Benton wanted to be that nose tackle. That's what they want him to be. It's like, okay, now learn your role about how you have to make this work for everybody else. And he talked about assignment football, man. Being here covering, that was one of the biggest things that Nick Saban always preached when he coached at Alabama. He's like, if guys just handle their assignments, we'll be successful. And I always listen to that, for a little bit, thinking like, okay, like what's he talking about? But then like as you actually see it come to fruition, and these guys, okay, if you do what you're supposed to do, the whole collective will benefit from it. So what Chris was alluding to there, if you play assignment football, the collective's going to benefit from it. So I think guys just learning from the tape, being professionals and not making the same mistake twice. And I think it should take care of itself.
Ben, that's a great point. Chris, I want to bounce back to you. You've already talked a lot about Loudermilk, Benton. Those are guys that need to be playing better assignment football here in week 2. Who are some other guys that your eyes will be on watching to see improvements here Sunday against the Seahawks?
Broderick Jones, who we talked to today as well in the Steelers locker room, and he owned up to his mistakes. He was like, hey, I need to be better. He's like, I need to embrace the next play mentality. Can't let the mistakes build upon themselves. And I thought, though, that the way he handled it was pretty mature. And he also got some encouraging words of support, I thought, from Aaron Rodgers, who said, quote, I really like Broderick. I got to know him during training camp. I like what he's about. I like his attitude. He's genuinely a positive guy. I've got a lot of confidence in him. I think Broderick Jones, the thing that I saw from him, even though he had a terrible game, like I gave him a 3 skull grade, which if you look at our stars and skulls grades, that's as low as it gets without getting to what we call the bus ticket, where it's like, get that guy out of here. But with the 3 skull grade, it was because he was just getting whipped. But the one thing I said that Broderick Jones did do in this game, I did not see him confused about where he should be. And that alone is progress, because last year there were so many times where he would be looking in the wrong direction. He'd pull in the wrong way. He'd run into somebody else. It was just, hey, you just got whipped by some really good dudes, Quinnen Williams, Will McDonald. And that's not an excuse for him. It's just acknowledging, hey, that's what happens there. And he said, hey, I have to be better, and I have to be ready for different approaches, because I asked him a question about hand usage and the technique he needs against a powerful guy like Quinnen Williams and a quicker, more savvy guy like Will McDonald. And those are the things that he has to adjust to and get better at. But he acknowledges that, and I think that that's a good sign. But the Steelers need him and Troy Fautanu to be sharper moving forward. They were able to get away with getting Aaron Rodgers sacked 4 times this week. That will not maintain if they let him get sacked or even hit 4 times every week. That has to sharpen up. The Steelers have to be better there. And as Wayne was saying, this Seahawks defensive front is not going to be kind either. They also have Byron Murphy on the interior. This is going to be a challenging a week again, but they got to bounce back. Again, the trenches are supposed to be a strength for this Steelers team. They got to show that it can be early on while they got these opponents that aren't the juggernauts on their schedule.
Byron Murphy, former Longhorn in Austin, Texas. Hey, Wayne, how important for a guy like Broderick Jones is it to hear your quarterback, a future Hall of Fame quarterback, say that after a rough week 1 game? What can that do for a player like Broderick moving forward?
Well, at this point, Broderick should already feel the weight of the world on him. When you play that position, it is the position for the offensive line. It's the one where you feel like you are the man and you have to play like that. You don't get excuses. You're the versatility of the people that you're going to play against. It is all of everything, the essence. And I'm not just saying that because I played it. I'm saying it because that is the actual fact of the left tackle position, especially when you have a right-handed quarterback. and more of a pocket passing quarterback. So I think Aaron Rodgers understands who he's dealing with, and there's no need to get down on Broderick Jones. It has to be an encouraging thing where you get him to continue to buy in and build on whatever success he's already had out on the field, because remember, he's moving over and this is a challenge. And Aaron Rodgers understands that. When, he's been around to see many guys make transitions up in that offensive line. So he's just holding his own right now. As Chris says, 3 skulls, and he's going to have to try to get better quickly to hold down that position.
Hey, Chris, who got your highest rating from week one?
There were 2 guys, Aaron Rodgers and Chris Boswell, both getting 3 stars. And so for those who are unfamiliar, I do a rating system. I thought A, B, C, D, that's lame. Like everyone does that. Let's do something different. So I took an idea from my dad, because he was a high school football coach. In his day, he coached at Peabody High School in Pittsburgh. And if you made a play on offense, you got a star, a decal on your helmet. If you made a play on defense, you got a skull helmet on decal on your helmet. But instead of making skulls about defense, I made it just for bad plays. So there's a range of 3 skulls to 3 stars. You can have 3 stars if you had an elite, like all pro level type of day. You have 2 stars if you had like a really highly efficient day and above average overall performance, really good, pretty solid. And then a 1 star is like, hey, you had a meh day, but you made a really big play, or you had like a nicely solid day. And then in reverse, 1 skull is like you didn't have a terrible day or a really bad day, but you made 1 mistake that was kind of costly. 2 skulls is like you had generally a bad day or multiple big mistakes. And then 3 skulls is you had a very, very terrible game that really cost the Steelers, which I gave to Broderick Jones, Isaiah Loudermilk, and Keanu Benton. But the 2 guys that got the 3 stars, the highest grades, Aaron Rodgers and Chris Boswell. A note about Chris Boswell, because I know everyone's going to look at the 60-yard field goal and the 56-yard field goal and all the extra points. But, fellas, how about this? In the new kickoff rule, you get a touchback. If you get a touchback now, it takes it out to the 35, which hands field position over to the other team automatically. So it behooves you to have a kicker who can consistently put the ball inside the 5-yard line so that you can get them as far as back. All 7 of Chris Boswell's kicks landed in the return zone, forcing the Seahawks to return them. And the one that he put at the 1-yard line was the one that they fumbled, and it gave the Steelers the lead right after that. So not only was he an elite place kicker as far as making his kicks, he was an elite in the kickoff department as well, because his kicks did not alone give the Jets any breaks.
The Wizard of Boz just makes magic wherever he kicks the football. Hey, Chris, I knew who your stars and your skulls were. I read the article, and I asked because coming up after the break, we're going to be talking about that one guy who we didn't talk about here like Boz, but the fellow 3-star in Aaron Rodgers. I mean, come on. We've got to talk about Aaron Rodgers. He was unbelievable. I couldn't believe what I was seeing from the guy wearing 8 in black and gold. That's coming up next here on the Locked On Steelers Squad Show. But first, when the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with SupplyHouse. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. More than 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts for a fast project? SupplyHouse has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. The Part Finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. Their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process smoother. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Back here, Locked On Steelers Squad Show, Wednesday night with 3 of my favorite people to talk Steelers. Ben Bobick, Wayne Gandy, Christopher Carter. All right, Chris, like I said, was reading through your stars and skulls, and double C, I saw AR at the top there. And as a Steelers fan, the quarterback position has been, I won't say a train wreck post Ben Roethlisberger, but it's been that one position where you're like, in the NFL, you need to have that guy leading the offense who can win your team some games. And we really haven't had that. And I wasn't sure about the whole Aaron Rodgers thing. Is he too old? Like, will he still have the same motivation? Yet 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Guy was 22 of 30, close to 300 passing yards, maybe in the middle of the 200s. Just what you want if you're a Steelers fan, right?
I thought the most impressive part of this was he distributed the ball to 7 different receivers and 4 different guys each caught a touchdown. When you look at that and you look at how the parts of the field where he distributed the football, it makes it so much harder to predict it as a defense, what you want to take away. Like, there were several games where just like, because Antonio Brown was just so insanely good, you could know that they were like Ben Roethlisberger was going to him and you still couldn't stop it unless you were an elite team and you surrounded him. Like, you go back to the AFC Championship game against the Patriots, where when Le'Veon Bell went down, all the Patriots did was they double and triple teamed Antonio Brown. They said, beat us with Eli Rogers and Sammy Coates, please. And the Steelers just couldn't, Ben Roethlisberger just couldn't do that. But what you see with Aaron Rodgers is he's able to beat you with Ben Skoranek. He's able to beat you with Jonnu Smith on a quick pass, or Pat Freiermuth up the seam, or Calvin Austin, on the crosser. And then, of course, DK Metcalf worked into the equation. And we didn't even get to see Roman Wilson be targeted. And there were a couple times I thought he got open in the limited time that he was on the field. So I look at this and I see a quarterback who is making it tougher to get a bead on what exactly he's doing, which is going to buy him more time, or buy this offense more time to get its footing in other areas. Because I promise you, if this Steelers run game never manifests this year, eventually people will get a beat on what Aaron Rodgers likes to do and take the things away. But the more things cerebrally that he's able to force you to honor, whether it's the flat, whether it's dual routes over the middle, shallow crosses, or the corner routes, all the different things that he's able to hit, it forces you to have to think and honor about different things. But you eventually need that run game to kick in to balance things out. For now, Aaron Rodgers is carrying the Steelers offense by using his brain, using his guile, using his savviness as a longtime NFL vet, a future Hall of Famer, to guide the Steelers offense and pick at the things that he professionally can. The thing is I don't think that he can do that all season long. They have to find ways to make it so that he only has to do that here and there instead of being the thing that carries them through each game.
I'm with you. And Wayne, I was going to ask you, again, 40 plus years old, you can't beat Father Time. So how can Aaron Rodgers, to the best of his ability, carry what he did in week 1 in that 34-32 win over the Jets throughout the rest of the season? Because if we get that version of Aaron Rodgers and he stays healthy, I'm a little bit too excited here. I mean, I don't want to slow the roll a little bit, but I really liked what I saw.
I think what we forget is Aaron Rodgers blew his Achilles, and last year is really, to me, a season that you just put tape over. You just get a piece of tape and you have to put it over the whole season, because most guys, when they come off an Achilles injury, the next season, they're just hoping to make it. You saw it in Atlanta with Kirk Cousins. There is no pop on the ball. There's no plant. Everything you do, you're questioning whether you should move out of the pocket. You have fear. All that goes into play. So the greatness of Aaron Rodgers, I've always thought, is that he always kind of worked with less. And he was able to work with a little less than most quarterbacks because he distributes the ball out to everybody. So everybody breaks the huddle, believing they're going to get the ball. And I know people are listening, that's how. No, there's plenty of time when you go through that play and that number 2 or 3 receiver doesn't feel like you're coming to them. They give you half effort. They're late on breaks. I think when the Steelers, he excites you because he's Magic Johnson. He is truly a point guard in distributing the ball, and that builds excitement. It makes everybody want to get to their mark because this guy might throw me the ball. And you don't always get to play with that kind of quarterback. Most guys find that comfy blanket, and they wrap it around them, and they go to those 1 or 2 guys. This guy really throws the ball, and I think this receiving core understands that, and that's why they all leave with that idea that Aaron's coming to me even when he's not.
Wayne, I love that perspective, that point. Ben, we didn't have you on the show Sunday. I can only imagine maybe you lost your voice a little bit knowing you, but walk us through what you were thinking watching Aaron Rodgers Sunday in week 1.
Yeah, man. I mean, it was almost too good to be true. I'm like, this is what we signed up for. This is what we wanted here. And it just someone who just knows where to go with the football. No, understands completely how to play the game. Understands, okay, what's going on at the line. Think about the too many men on the field penalty he drew there. That like we talked so much about those little things that he does and his cadence and those different things that he's so good at the line. That's those little things we talked about. Something as simple as just getting a 5-yard penalty that he could provide. He just knows where to go with the football. I think the biggest thing for me was I think the touchdown, my favorite touchdown, had to have been that one to Calvin Austin because he's thrown from his back heel and it was a flick. And Wayne was just talking about how just having to trust that Achilles. Well, he definitely did there because, I mean, he was kind of evading some rush there and he knew exactly where to go with the football, knew where he was, and it was just effortless and right on the money to Calvin Austin. Those sort of things are just you just can't you can't replicate. I mean, it's one of one when it comes to a guy like Aaron Rodgers. So it was so much fun to watch. And honestly, from a human level too, not even just as a Steelers fan, you're happy for the guy. You're like, hey man, he's going to his former employer. And they said, hey, we really didn't want you. And I think you can play into that narrative all you want. And I understand. We could talk for days about that narrative. But, if you just look at the facts, like, hey, he played there the last 2 years. They said they were going to go to a different direction. And he comes back and he lights him up for 4 touchdowns in his first game at his new team. You feel good for the guy. Obviously I feel good because it's, he's playing for the team I'm rooting for. But you feel good about on a human level to see him go out there and light it up. But I think it's great. But like we've just been alluding to, man, it's not sustainable if they don't get him some protection and get that run game going. And it's no sense of even panicking over that just yet. It's week 1. Everything that, like we mentioned, learning from the tape, everything hopefully will figure itself out. But man, was that fun to watch when it comes to distributing the football. And we wondered about the wide receiver 2 position. Yeah, we don't need to wonder about that anymore with the way Calvin Austin played. I think about not even just the touchdown, but those back shoulder throws that he had. The one catch he made inside the 5 with the defender with his back to Rodgers and him going up and make a play. That was a really, really awesome catch from 19.
A lot of things to love from that week 1 win. Hey, Rodgers fan number 12 says Aaron Rodgers MVP.
Whoa. Let's all relax.
Hey, it's on the screen. It's on the screen.
Take a chill pill.
Is it too early to talk Aaron Rodgers MVP?
It's some ayahuasca.
That's surprising. That's surprising coming from a guy's name's Aaron Rodgers fan number 12. I wouldn't expect him to have that opinion.
Ben, I'm right there with you. Hey, Chris, were you able to chat with Aaron? How often is Aaron? How often does he meet with the media? Is he required
every Wednesday?
Every Wednesday. So what did Aaron say today? How is he looking ahead to the Seahawks here?
I think he's keeping a very level head. Like I give him full kudos. He does not give us much ammunition to work with during the week. Like there's sometimes that guys will say something that fires the other team up. Like Micah Parsons saying about the Lions, they just run a lot of tricks. You don't hear him say those types of things. He's very much just like, yeah, we're gonna do this.
Micah and Aaron are 2 very different personalities.
Yeah, they are.
I don't think we don't have to argue that point.
But I think the thing with Aaron Rodgers is when we talked to him today, he was very much just kind of focused on what they need to do against the Seahawks, how they need to build. I think one thing that's been really interesting is he has talked about how like he needs to be better in certain things. Like he thought he walked into some of the sacks that the Steelers recorded or Steelers gave up on him. He kind of was protecting his offensive linemen, and I think it's like veteran stuff like that can sometimes endear you to your teammates, and not in a BS way. Because like I thought there were times where Russell Wilson did it and it came off genuine, and I thought there were times that he actually meant it. But then there were times where like, Russell Wilson's trying to hype people up, but he's the person that's also hurting them. And it's like when you have a guy that's throwing 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions while there's no run game and he's getting sacked left and right, but he's getting up and he's throwing touchdowns, that inspires everyone around you. And that can lead to guys playing better. And I see in Aaron Rodgers the want to not necessarily say, hey, everyone get behind me, I'm going to be the rah-rah guy, but just doing it and just being like, let's go beat these guys. And I get that sense from him. I got more of that sense from him today. But yeah, he talks every Wednesday after practice moving forward, which will be it's always kind of convenient to get to chat with him in the middle part of the week, get our notes in, and then we can like ask our questions. I thought this question I asked him about the potential of using the Steelers tight ends as decoys because of their size and athleticism, especially like this week, because I think if you're going after the Seahawks, you want to try to go away from Devin Witherspoon. You want to try to go away from Reek Woolen. And I was like, hey, what if you find a way to get matchups that the Seahawks have to overcompensate to cover the tight ends, and that opens up some of your wide receivers? And he said, our tight ends are too good to be decoys. He's like, our tight ends are very talented guys. I want to get the ball to those guys because they're playmakers. And the way that he like emphatically, I think he thought I was trying to downplay the tight ends, and he was like, I'm not going to let him do that. But I was just asking in the sense of like schematically, when you have talented tight ends like that, how can you use them to also open up other guys? But he seems adamant that he wants to use the tight ends a lot. And, what's funny is he used them not sparingly, but like in small ways against the Jets. The 3 passes to Freiermuth, 2 of them were for good first downs. 5 passes to Jonnu Smith, but in total just got 15 yards out of it, but got a touchdown and a crucial 3rd down conversion. So I'm intrigued to see how he follows that up with against a team like the Seahawks. How many more looks do his tight ends get?
Robert Maxwell, Rodgers fan number 12, Aaron Rodgers. He is a bad man.
He's a bad man. I give him credit for that.
All right. Let's have some fun with this coming up next. We're talking way too early. I guess fine. It's we're a few days out, but early predictions Sunday between the Seahawks and the Steelers and keys to that game. All right, this is the Steelers Squad Show right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Tonight's episode is also brought to you by Mazda. You can just move through life, or you can find the things that move you. It's your choice. You can choose to get out there, choose your people. You can choose to go for it. Like, really, go for it. Just choose to do something that moves you. Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. Mazda, move and be moved. Locked On Steelers Squad Show Wednesday night. Ben Bobick, Wayne Gandy, Christopher Carter. We're talking Steelers. Steelers 1-0, beating the Jets 34-32 in Week 1. Now they've got the Seahawks Sunday afternoon, 1 Eastern, at Acrisure Stadium on Fox. Home opener. Boy, this is fun. Renegade will be playing at some point. Terrible towels twirling. All the vibes. Ben, I'll start with you. What is your key to this game this week for the Steelers to go to 2-0?
Yeah, I think the keys are going to just be, correcting the mistakes from the previous game, right? Because you can't go wrong with wanting to stop the run, obviously against the Seattle team, something you struggled to do against the Jets, and then obviously hopefully get that run game going, get a little rhythm there between the offensive lines. I feel like with the way the Steelers want to run the ball, getting the offensive line moving, I feel like if they get that going early, then the offensive line might get a little mojo, might get some of that mojo back. Okay, like here we go. This is what we're supposed to be doing. Now I'm kind of in the groove. Now we're taking it to them, and because that was something that they struggled with on Sunday. So I think those keys are just stopping the run and then obviously getting that run game going. But and we saw a lot of good this past Sunday. I'm excited to see how the defense responds, because I thought that was pretty cool coming out of that game of them. Not necessarily obviously celebrating the win, but being like, no, we got a lot to clean up. This is not where we want to be. This is not what we want to be this season. And so I'm excited to see how that plays out with how they respond, because they're going to be a big part of the potential of the Steelers' success this year. So I think how the defense responds will be a big factor as well.
Ben, I'm glad you mentioned the running game. Cody Iannelli saying, will we see Kenny G and Warren on the field together more often? Chris, what do you think?
I mean, if Kenny G's on the field, that's going to be some really good music. I mean, have you ever seen that man play a saxophone? No. But
Mr. Kenneth Gainwell, I know that's just funny though. I love a nice sax though.
Shout out Kenny G. My wife's family and her mom, they actually have a signed Kenny G saxophone in their house. So that guy's a legend.
That's very awesome.
That
is very awesome.
You know, you come to the Steelers Squad show and you're going to get that kind of information and fun fact that you can't get anywhere else. I did not expect that tonight.
No, that's different. So shout out to the musical Kenny G, but to the football Kenny G, I think you'll see some formations with Warren and Kenneth Gainwell on the field at the same time, but not many, because I think the Steelers love their tight ends and they like their receivers. Like, you saw Calvin Austin make a play. If you're putting two running backs on the field, that means you can only have either a tight end and two receivers or two tight ends and one receiver. And I just think that's not the tactical advantage that you want to give, especially with Aaron Rodgers, unless you plan on using Jaylen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell as dual wide receivers. Kenneth Gainwell can line up and split out wide and go in motion and be a pass catcher out there. But I think you'd rather have your Calvin Austins, your Roman Wilsons, or your Jonnu Smiths and Pat Fryermuths doing that, because that's their specialty. So I like the idea of trying some dual things here and there, but sparingly. Don't make it a staple. Don't make it a big thing. Keep using your double tight end sets, your triples tight end sets. Use some 11 personnel. Get Roman Wilson out on the field with Calvin Austin and DK Metcalf. I'm very encouraged by what I've seen out of Calvin Austin. I think he handled Sunday extremely professionally. He did it again, like I was saying, with how like a lot of the veterans, they're not like, oh, I'm so excited to play in front of Pittsburgh. Like they are, but like they're not. It's not too much for them. The moment is not too much for Calvin Austin. That guy has been ready for 4 years to show up, and he is showing up right now for the Steelers. I think that he is on a mission to prove that the Steelers don't need a wide receiver too. Like I've seen comments, they need to go get Tyreek Hill. You got Tyreek Hill at home, baby. Saying. But
I don't know if I want. Do we want Tyreek at home?
No, that's a very good point. Let's stay away from the office. Okay. Yeah, that's a very good point.
Hey, just so you know, some Rodgers fan 12 says Chris Carter should be offensive coordinator. So
listen,
we're all good.
I don't want that job, because you know why? Because when's the last offensive coordinator you all liked? You hate Haley. You hated Matt Canada and Arthur Smith. He's getting like a little love right now. But the second Aaron Rodgers throws a pick and it's not Arthur Smith's fault, it's going to be all Arthur Smith's fault. I appreciate the shout out though, because I do love to talk X's and O's ball. But I want nothing to do with calling plays on offense, because if you don't score 50 points every game, you suck as a coordinator. Anyway,
he or she goes by Rodgers fan number 12. It should be Carter's fan number 1, maybe. I don't know what your number is, Chris. Wayne, how did the Steelers defensively stop Sam Darnold, who, by the way, summertime in Austin, you just never know who you're going to see out and about. I had a buddy said that looks like Sam Darnold. I said, there's no way. Just didn't look like just didn't look like the size of a football player. I'm not saying every quarterback needs to be Cam Newton, and I've seen Cam Newton in person. I was shocked how large of a human being he is and how fast he could run. Sam Darnold chilling in Austin this summer. It was Sam Darnold. Now he's getting ready for the Steelers week 2. Wayne, how does the Steelers defense stop Sam Darnold in the Seahawks offense?
That interior defensive line, Benton, Y.A. Black, Loudermilk, they're going to have to contribute to stopping the run. You have to imagine Seattle is going to try that old-fashioned deflate the ball game where you keep Aaron Rodgers on the sideline as much as possible. And they're going to try to stay out because T.J. Watt and Highsmith, I believe, are going to get it crunk up this week as well. So you're not going to want to be in second and third and long. So they're going to have to get the run game going with their own Kenneth Walker over there and try to stay in those third and manageable for Sam Darnold and make him, prove the Steelers defense wants to get him in long and make him prove that Cooper Kupp, Smith and Jingba, I think, are his receivers on the outside. Keep those guys quiet. And Smith and Jingba actually had a great game last week. So I just feel like interior, because Chris talked about it at the beginning of the show. As an offensive lineman, have an offensive scheme, we start running a check to me, whatever Benton's number is. I think it's 94, 6. That becomes the play. He can't hide. We're going to make you prove. Every time you think you move to the right, it's check to me. Wherever he is, we're going to run the ball at him and make him prove that he can stop the run, because right now, right in that middle of that defense is where you want to attack to have some success.
Benton, number 95. Speaking of numbers, let's go around the horn, end this show with predictions for Sunday. I think I said Chris Boswell would have 8 field goals and the Steelers would win 24-9 last week. So I was a little off, but I knew Chris Boswell was going to have a huge game. Ben, I'll start with you. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, I love the Steelers at home this week. I do. That feeding off the home energy. I think the defense steps up big this week. I think we're going to see a lot more pressure on the quarterback, and I think a lot of that's going to come from just the lack of threat of a guy like Justin Fields quarterbacking. I think that was a big factor in them struggling a little bit on Sunday, with just the threat of him. Not even just him running, but you think about a lot of the times on Sunday that the Steelers got. We almost felt like they were collapsing the pocket, and he was able to slide his way through and make a play and extend the play. I'm not so sure Sam Darnold's going to be that elusive like Justin Fields. I think Wayne alluded to it. I think you see TJ Watt, you see Alex Highsmith's presence this week. I think you see a turnover or two by the defense. And I think the offense just stays in rhythm. I think you see the run game getting a little bit better. Well, it might not be, turning water into wine here, but I think it will be at least better. You at least moving the ball to take some pressure, maybe getting the play action working a little bit. But I think you see guys learn from their mistakes, and I think I see the Steelers winning this ball game 24-13.
All right, Steelers favored currently 2.5, over-unders 39.5. So, Chris, what say you about how you see things playing out Sunday at Acrisure?
I like the Steelers offense to come in and still attack this Seahawks defense. I think the passing attack can take advantage of the middle of the field, much like they did against the Jets. I see the defense being a bit better. I think that part of what the defense had to account for was the threat of the running quarterback, which was something they really hadn't had a chance to do much live during camp, which it's not an excuse. It's just one of those things where sometimes there's some things that you don't go over as much because that's not what you have in your account. And the closest thing to a mobile quarterback they had was Will Howard, and he missed most of camp. So I think this week with Sam Darnold, I think they'll be better suited for what the Seahawks want to do, and you'll see a more concerted defensive effort. I think the offense is still efficient. They get in the end zone. Give me Steelers 27, Seahawks 19.
All right. Hey, the Seahawks lost in week 1. They lost in week 1, 17-13 to the Niners. So maybe they're coming in with some motivation. Wayne, hearing what Ben had to say, how do you see things playing out Sunday?
Well, I definitely feel like the offense is going to stay in rhythm. I do, as Ben alluded to earlier, I think the defense is going to score this week in some kind of form or fashion. I'm going 24-16. I think this defense will be a little stout. They hold Seattle to, they'll move the ball a little bit, but field goals for them, and it end up probably 24-16.
I have 29-16 in my head, and I agree with Chris and Ben and Wayne in all the points that you said. The biggest point that I agree with is the fact that Sam Darnold, you don't have to face Justin Fields. It's a better suited offensive scheme for the Steelers defense. That's why I think the Steelers defense comes back and does not give up that many points for a second straight week. No surprise here. Rodgers fan number 12, 35-13 Steelers. Rodgers goes for 350 passing yards and 5 touchdowns. Just patting.
Do I hear 6? Do I hear 6?
No.
Just patting those MVP stats. Okay, just got to get those stats up there. So
it's not 2012. It's not 2012.
Hey, but we could be 2012 just for one day. Just for one day, and it'll be Sunday. Any final thoughts before we wrap things up here on this Wednesday night, guys?
Check out Crossover Thursday. We got Locked On Seahawks host Corbin Smith coming on to preview this game. He's giving you all the insights where everyone's going to be looking at Devin Witherspoon and Reek Woolen against DK Metcalf. He had some insight that says it might be someone else in the Seahawks secondary that draws that matchup. Check it out on the Locked On Steelers podcast.
See, that's why I love to open the floor. I didn't know Chris's schedule for tomorrow. That's awesome. Locked On Steelers daily podcast. Chris Carter with the best guest. Still waiting for us to be invited, Chris. Just saying. You've got some good options.
You guys want to hop in?
Got some good options. I say best guess, but you got some right in front of you. Hey, this has been another great episode 10 of the Steelers Squad Show. Reminder, you can always listen to the audio of tonight's preview show on the Locked On Steelers podcast channel, wherever and however you podcast. And hey, Steelers Nation, do yourself a favor, like and subscribe. That'll do it, though, for this Week 2 pregame edition of the Locked On Steelers Squad Show. For Wayne Gandy, Ben Bobick, and Christopher Carter, I'm Tyler Feldman saying good night. And here we go. We'll see you right after the game on Sunday.